Hey everyone! Welcome to my Slow Gambler's Chest series, where we walk through all aspects of the huge Gambler's Chest expansion for Kingdom Death Monster. In this video, we'll install the Gambler's Chest into the core Kingdom Death game. I'll go through every step from first opening the box, so you can follow along with me, or use the chapters in the description to skip ahead. Let's get started! Let's take this handheld camera with me. So first, when you open the Gambler's Chest, you'll see lots of tokens, lots of terrain pieces. You get this lovely encounter board, which is used for the encounter fights. And you've got your record sheets. These are for your survivors. There's the rulebook, which I'm not going to open because I've already got one that I'm using, and I'm going to save this as a backup. And you've also got the scout gear grid, and you've got this for the settlement phase where you put your extra tool cards. We'll get into that later. And here are the record sheets for the settlement for the people of the Dreamkeeper campaign. Let's toss out all of these silica gels. Okay, so next up, let's get started on unwrapping all of these cards. I'm not going to unwrap these art cards because I already have a set of them, so wherever I don't need to unwrap things to show you stuff, I'll just keep them wrapped up for now. Don't worry too much when you're unboxing all of these cards about putting them in the right place or storing them in any particular way. They're all jumbled up together anyway. I mean, they should be clumped in the same kinds of card, but they're not organized in any particular way, as far as I can remember from last time unboxing. So we'll need to go through and hunt for stuff as we go along anyway, and I can show you what kind of cards are being referred to by the rulebook as we go through. After opening back up my 1.3 edition of the game, it really makes me realize how big the Gambler's Chest is, because you can see over here in the main box, there's really not that many cards. I mean, it's a huge game, and it got me through many years of playing just with the core set alone. But actually, when you compare it, the Gambler's Chest has so much in it. So yeah, I think we're going to be kept very busy with this, at least in my group, over the next few years. I'm getting some glimpses here of stuff that I didn't notice when I first unboxed the Gambler's Chest. In my campaign, as I'm recording this with my friends, we've got about 3 or 4 Lantern years in and just fought the level 2 Smog Singers. So there's still a whole lot that we haven't seen at all yet. We haven't fought Apnus, we haven't fought even the Butcher yet. But already the systems in the game are really interesting, and it just really feels like an extension of what Kingdom Death already was. And yeah, I've been especially enjoying the philosophy system. So let's see if I can open this up carefully. Okay, there we have the settlement box, and I think if it's the same for every copy, there'll be, yeah, the settlement locations are in here, and the Bone Eater's encounter card, or the kind of big monster AI card, I'm not sure what to call it, and one more set of cards in there. A couple more sets of cards to unbox with things like character cards and patterns. Okay, that's everything that we need to unwrap unwrapped, I think. So next we're going to get the Gambler's Chest rulebook out, and I will take you through step by step and show you what it looks like to find those cards out of all of the stuff in the Gambler's Chest and put it into this core box. So I will see you in a second. Okay, so here is my currently in use Gambler's Chest rulebook. Let's have a quick recap of what the Gambler's Chest actually contains. So many new elements that will challenge Kingdom Death Monster players, and in the following pages you'll find an overview of the new concepts, content and miniatures included in the box. So for returning survivors, it includes the people of the Dreamkeeper, and excited players who want to jump right in should jump to page 33 and start their journey. I made a video that a couple of you saw about the Gambler's Chest contents, and it went over each of these things: the sculptures, which are all of the miniatures in the box, patterns for making new gear, encounters, which is what that little encounter board we saw is for, scouts of death, like with that little gear grid, wanderers, which is one of the booklets here, and then of course the new monsters, philosophies, collective cognition, knowledge under the Ark survivors feature, and a whole new campaign. So we're going to have to socket all of that into our core box. So next up is the recurrent story, and this tells you how to start the People of the Dreamkeeper campaign. It's very much like the prologue from the Gambler's Chest rulebook. One thing that I do want to particularly call out, because I've seen people getting this wrong in various places on the internet, you use the cloth armor gear card, the cloth starting gear card. I think I've probably got one right here, cloth. You use this one. There's another card that you might think that you would use with the Gambler's Chest, but you don't. You use cloth for the initial starting prologue. So here's what we're really here for. Organize your collection. This expansion contains a myriad of new gameplay components. Unpack all cards and components. Yes, we have. Organize them in your collection. Once your collection is organized, you can set up the campaign. If your core game is earlier than version 1.6, this product contains 3 perfect basic resources: a perfect bone, perfect hide, and perfect organ to add to your basic resource deck. If you already have these, do not add them. So this is also something that I think I made a mistake about when I first installed the Gambler's Chest. Let me see if I can quickly find the cards it's talking about. That might take me a while actually, because there's so much stuff here. Aha, I found them. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. As you can see, there are these 3 cards that come with the Gambler's Chest. If your Kingdom Death version is before 1.6, so before the Legendary Card Pack, if you know what that is, then you won't have these and you need to add them in. However, if your Kingdom Death version is 1.6 because you have the Legendary Card Pack that upgrades it, or because you have a 1.6 copy, you will have these and you don't want to add these in, because then you'll have twice as many as you should have. So this is an older version of the game, so I'm going to put them in to the basic resources. Curate your campaign cards. Your Kingdom Death collection may contain components from other expansions. You will not need them for this campaign. The People of the Dreamkeeper campaign uses components only from the core game and the Gambler's Chest expansion. I'm reading from here, by the way. So in my example copy of the game, I have the Gorm. For some reason, I have 2 copies of the Gorm expansion. So for illustration purposes, I put them in this copy of the game. So I am going to take out all of the stuff that is Gorm related. So the Gorm gear and the Gorm cards. And it says here that you should check the crests. Cards specific to an expansion have that expansion's crest illustrated at the top. Core game cards have no crest. As you set up your game decks, remember to set aside cards marked with crests not featured in this expansion. So in the case of the Gorm, there are various cards that are part of his monster decks, but then there are also a couple of things like his armor set, some disorders, and as you can see here, they have their own Gorm crest. So if you're installing the Gambler's Chest into your game and you've got any expansions, remember to go through and remove anything that has a crest on it. So that step is very easy for me because I just have, 1 expansion installed right now, but that might be a longer process for you. So I would recommend, if you're following along with me, doing that before proceeding. And I'm going to put the Gorm somewhere safe. New card dividers. New card dividers are included to help organize your collection. There's some of those here, these kinds of things. You can use these to distinguish cards in your current campaign from those of other expansions. So as you saw, my Gorm cards had little dividers to separate them out from other stuff. So now that we've removed that, campaign decks. Assemble the persistent decks for this campaign. Examine each group of cards, disorders, fighting arts, terrain, and innovations, for example. Combine the crestless cards from the core game with the cards featuring the crests of monsters and pillars in this campaign. So what that means is we're going to need to go through each of these different sets of cards and add in the various different kinds to those things that are mentioned. So let's do that right now. And I'll do this all on camera so that it's easy to follow along at home if you're worried about how to do this part. So I'm going to separate out all of the character cards here because we're not going to need those for our first playthrough. And next I'm going through, and these are all pattern cards. And I'm going to set those aside for the moment because we're looking for disorders, fighting arts, terrain, and innovations for the moment. These are some weird kinds of cards that were a bit confusing to sort out for me when I first added them to my version of the game, so don't worry, I'll talk you through all of that. We'll come back to those. I'm going to put the seed patterns with the other patterns as well. So here's my character cards here, and I've got my seed patterns and patterns in a stack, and I've got kind of miscellaneous stuff from that pile over here. Let's go through another pile. These are AI cards, so we know that they're going to be for the Smog Singers because it says Smog Singers, and we'll set those to one side. You're going to have a lot of piles going as you go through this, but don't worry, that's okay. Let's set these in a pile and we'll put all of our Smog Singers stuff together as we find it. Here we've got various terrain cards, and we've also got these kind of mysterious looking colourful king card backs. We're going to put those in the random stuff pile down here with the other weird cards that have strange card backs. We'll put those all together. That's our miscellaneous pile. And here we've got some king cards. All of that is king AI cards, so let's start a king pile down here. And I will move the camera so that you can get a clearer look at these different card stacks. Okay, I've rearranged slightly so that it will be easier for you to follow along at home. Let's put away these gear cards since there's not really too much that we need to do with those just yet. And just to recap, we've got a stack from the piles we already went through of kind of irregular cards like unusual terrain cards and anything with a card back that isn't in the original core game. And then we've got a pile of character cards, patterns, both seed and regular, and one pile for each kind of monster so far. And these sets of cards here should be the same as the ones in your Gambler's Chest set as well, judging by the two that I've opened so far. Let's move these out of the way. Okay, moving on. Here's another stack of cards, and yeah, you should be able to recognize the backs of these card sets in your own Gambler's Chest, so hopefully those will look the same for you. And these are just a bunch of resource cards, as we can see here, for different monsters. So let's put those with the other monster sets that we've got going here. We've already got a Smog Singers AI deck going, and here is the King resources. So we'll also put those with the King AI cards that we've got going already. Here are some Crimson Crocodile cards, so let's start a Crimson Crocodile deck here, and we've also got Smog Singers as well. So let's put those with the other Smog Singers cards. Okay, next set. And we're only going to do the regular size cards for now. All of the extra long cards that you can see over here we will do later on. So here are our Crimson Crocodile AI cards. Let's put those here with his resource cards. And here we've got some Bone Eater AI and terrain cards. Let's put those in a Bone Eaters pile. And we've got Atlas AI cards and one terrain card here, which we'll put over here with the irregular cards. The reason I'm making the terrain cards part of this irregular card deck is because they each have something other than just terrain written on them. So this one actually says Lanternism, this one says Scout, and yeah, anything that is not just a basic terrain card is what I'm putting in that pile. So here's an Atlas AI deck, and let's move on to another pile. Here we've got some King AI cards, so they will go in our King deck over here. And here are some God Hand AI cards. Let's make a new pile for the God Hand. Here are Gambler AI cards. and these can go in a new gambler pile. And here we've got 2 Flower Knight AI cards, and you might have seen that part of the gambler's chest, just kind of a random addition, was to improve the Flower Knight's difficulty a bit, make him a bit harder by adding these 2 cards. So these, if you don't have the Flower Knight in your campaign, which we won't for the first time that we're playing People of the Dreamkeeper, these can just be put to one side. So we'll leave those in the box for now. And we've got a couple of Crimson Crocodile AI cards, which will go in here. And let's tuck these King AI cards at the bottom of that deck. Okay, next pile. Smog Singer's hit locations. Let's put those in here. And King hit locations can go with the King. And we should be getting just about all of the cards together for each of these monsters now. God Hand hit locations can go here. Okay, this one is another Gambler's Chest stack. So all of these Gambler hit locations can go in with the Gambler AI cards. All of these Crimson Croc hit locations can sit on the Crimson Croc deck, and these Atlas hit locations can go on the Atlas pile. All right, this next pile has strange resources on top. So let's separate all of those out and put them together. Here we have IR's Indomitable Resources, and let's put those in with the relevant monster. So that's Smog Singer's there. We've got some Phoenix ones, interestingly. So let's make a Phoenix pile down here. You might not be able to see that, but that's a separate pile. And then we've got some for the King, for the Crimson Crocodile. We've got some irregular card backs here. So I'm not sure what this one is, so let's put this in the kind of random pile. And these ones, I happen to know from playing a bit that these belong to the Crimson Crocodile, so let's put those on the Crimson Crocodile. And then we've got the different AI cards for each of the, or the basic action cards, I should say, for each of the monsters. And we can see from the crest in the corner here that this is a Crimson Crocodile card. And then let's cap off each of these with the relevant basic action card. So God Hand, Gambler, Crimson Croc, Atlas. We then have some armor sets, which will make a pile of their own. And we have some AI cards for the Hand, and just a tiny handful for the Smog Singers. So I'm going to put those in their pile. The Hand I'm going to also put down here with the Phoenix resources that we found. Okay, we're getting there now. So let's do Hunt events. Let's put those in their own pile because we know what those are. I'm going to put those on the rulebook here. And then we've got some M cards. Let's put those in the kind of random pile. And here are innovations. Let's make those their own pile. Terrain, this time just normal terrain, not with a kind of different card back. Make that its own pile. Fighting arts, disorders. And finally, some more character cards. I think we're on the last pile of regular size cards now. And we've got some seed patterns. Those are easy, can go with the others. Some secret fighting arts, they can go in their own pile. Sword crafts, I believe, are related to Atlas, so I'm going to put them with him. And then we've got hunt events for Smog Singers. They can go in their pile. The King. And the Crimson Croc. Oh, and this diffuser heart trait here oh yeah, I said, didn't I, that because it has a crimson crocodile crest on it, it can go in with the crimson crocodile. Great, so these are our different piles of cards. So for the next few sections of the rulebook, we're going to be combining cards from the Gambler's Chest with the core game, and it actually has a list of every card that you need to combine in, and I think maybe there's one or two instances where there are some kind of ones that can catch you out, so it's useful to go through the list here. Let's start with the disorders, which we've got piled up down here already. So that is in fact every single one of the cards that is in the Gambler's Chest disorders deck, and we will just put that in our core set with the other disorders. Next, it's exactly the same for the fighting arts. All of the fighting arts that come in the Gambler's Chest that we put in this pile over here can go into the core game under the fighting arts tab. Next, for terrain, it says to combine the following terrain cards with the core game terrain. And these are the ones that we set aside that just have terrain written on them, that don't have any other kind of special stuff on their card back. And that's why we separated those out into a different pile down here. But the ones that are just terrain on the back, so there's 4 of those, can go in your core set under terrain. It says, do not add the following special terrain cards to the terrain deck, only use them when instructed. So that's all the ones that we've kept aside over here. Innovations is where it gets a little more complicated. It says, to prepare to build your innovation deck, replace Principal Romantic with Gambler's Chest Principal Romantic, Sculpture with Gambler's Chest Sculpture, and Pictographs with Pictographs. And they have a different icon next to them. So let's go through now and find those innovations in the innovation deck. Okay, so looking a bit closer, we can see that this pictograph has a scout banner in the corner, and Romantic and Sculpture both have a kind of, I think this is a collective cognition icon in the corner. So just look through and pull out your Pictograph, Romantic and Sculpture cards, and let's replace the ones in our core game with these ones. So here is my core game innovation deck. Let's take out these innovations. Okay, so I found my Romantic, Sculpture and Pictograph cards from my core games innovation deck, and I'm setting those aside along with these Flower Knight cards over here, and we're going to put in the 3 innovation cards with the banners into this deck. It also says the following innovations are earned through play, keep them in your collection until you need them. So there's a bunch of them here, and I'm going to look through and just check that this is all the ones that are in this pile that we made over here of innovation cards from the Gambler's Chest. Yeah, I just counted, there's 15. So we're going to put those in this innovation deck as well, because when it comes to make a new campaign, we'll be pulling certain cards out of this deck anyway. So having replaced those cards that we needed to, those 3 cards, and added the other ones, this can go in our innovations. Next it says monsters. Ensure the Crimson Croc, Smog Singers, Atlas, Phoenix, the Hand, Gambler, King, God Hand, AI, Hit Location, Hunt Event, Resource, Gear Decks, Rare Gear, and Indomitable Resources are all in your collection in a way that's accessible during your campaign. So let's take all of these cards that we just stacked up into the different monster decks, and we'll just chuck all of those into the box. So let's find the card dividers for each of those. Here's Atlas, Crimson Croc, all of the different monsters, and Smog Singers is back here. Let's put these with their respective monsters in the box. So starting with the God Hand at the back. And I'm going to put the Gambler, the King, then Atlas, the Smog Singers, and finally the Crimson Crocodile. So there we have all the monsters in the box. Before we get to the last section of this rulebook over here, let's put away the rest of these components where we can as well. So using the patterns and seed pattern dividers, let's take those 2 kinds of cards and also put those in the core game. Let's take the secret fighting arts over here and put those in the secret fighting arts divider in the core box as well. Let's take the indomitable resources for the Phoenix and place them in the Phoenix's section of the core game box. Same with this AI card from the hand. Even though we're not going to use them in the first playthrough, let's take the character cards and put them with the character card divider also in the box. I'm going to keep them at the back here out of the way. Let's take these armor sets and put them in the core game box as well. Same with the strange resources. And now all we have is some hunt events and our miscellaneous card pile. So for the miscellaneous card pile, I think we can just put everything in our sort of miscellaneous section of the core game box. For me, that's the section that has the traits and also the kind of placeholder cards. I don't have a divider for those kinds of cards, but I just slot them at the back behind where the character cards now live in my box. So I'm going to put all of those in here. Finally, we get to the section that has various Gambler's Chest components that are the irregularly sized cards, the philosophy booklets, and various things like the scout gear grid, encounter board, and kind of miscellaneous things like that. We've already stored the pattern and seed pattern cards in our box, but the rest of these things make sense to keep in the Gambler's Chest box because it has the right sized card slots. Let's quickly sort all of the gear cards into their respective dividers. I'm going to spread them each out on the table: the Colosseum, Crimson Crockery, whatever this is, the Gaming Gazebo, the Kingsmith, Meal Gear, Outskirts, Pattern Gear, and Seed Pattern Gear. Going through each of the stacks of items, it's pretty straightforward to sort those into the dividers that come with the Gambler's Chest, and then there are some that will fit into the core game, like Rare Gear and Starting Gear. I'm going to throw all of these sets of cards straight into the core game box, including putting the Rare Gear and Starting Gear straight into those piles. On the next page of the rulebook, it says to replace a basic hunt event card with the Ark Survivors hunt event card. Let's take one of the basic hunt event cards out of the deck and add the Ark Survivors hunt event card instead. The remaining hunt event cards I'm going to place in the miscellaneous section of the box. Okay, if you've been following along up until this point, you should only have a few things left out on the table. So I'm going to put in the final remaining Bone Eaters cards, the 2 AI and 1 terrain card, into the miscellaneous section of the core game box. Let's separate out the Scout Discovery and Settlement event cards into 2 different piles. With the settlement events from the Gambler's Chest, take out the Murder and Skull Eater events and set them to one side. Also take out the Lamplighter and Ballad of the Butcher settlement events that can be identified with the small red icon in the top left corner. We're going to take the settlement events from the core game box and take out the existing Murder and Skull Eater events. Then we're going to put in all of the Gambler's Chest cards, Skull Eater, Murder, and all of the remaining ones except for the ones with the red icon into our core game box. So now you should just have the 2 with the red icon and your original core game boxes, Skull and Murder, which we're going to store in the Gambler's Chest box for now. The Scout Discovery cards can either go in another compartment in the core game box, separate from the settlement events, or you can store them in the Gambler's Chest. Finally, from the settlement box, let's take all of the settlement locations and combine them with ones in the core game. And the Bone Eaters encounter card we can store wherever we like. Next, we'll look at the card dividers. I'm going to take out the Settlements Knowledge deck and Settlements Philosophy deck wide dividers, and all of the narrow dividers that we've still got left, and put them in the settlement box. All of the remaining dividers can stay in the Gambler's Chest box for now. And that's pretty much it. We've covered everything we need to do to install the game into the core box. You'll use both the core game box and the Gambler's Chest box as you're playing to store everything, including the encounter board, tokens, terrain tiles, scout gear grid, record sheets, booklets, extra tool cards, special dice, and whatever this is. All of the cards that we replaced, like that 1 basic hunt event, the 2 Flower Knight cards, and the innovations we replaced from the main deck, plus the 2 settlement events we replaced, can all be considered archived and out of play. I'm going to keep the small cards in the miscellaneous section of my game box, and the remaining settlement events in with the booklets in the Gambler's Chest. So that's it. It might seem like there's a huge amount of extra space left over in the Gambler's Chest, but once you add card sleeves if you're using them, and any other expansions that you add in further campaigns, I promise it will get full very quickly. For reference, here's what our boxes look like with sleeves after a few Lantern years of play. Anyway, for now, your Gambler's Chest is installed and you're ready to start with the recurrent story prologue that begins the Dreamkeeper campaign. If you'd like to see a walkthrough for that too, or if you run into any questions while installing the chest, feel free to let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!